The last case we would like to discuss is that of a given good. If an inferior good were to account for a very large proportion of consumers' expenditure, a change in its price would have a significant effect on the consumer's real income, resulting in a large income effect. Such goods with this large income effect is called Giffen good. Now, Giffen goods are named after the economist Sir Robert Giffens, who came up with this idea that these goods have such a large income effect that we will have an upward sloping demand curve. In other words, the income effect will outweigh substitution effect whenever the price of a good goes down. A good example could be basic food items such as rice, which forms a significant part of the diet of poor in many countries. Now, the argument, which is probably not accepted by all economists, is that when the price of rice or any such commodity like bread falls significantly, individuals' real income will rise to an extent that they will be able to attract more of other goods, for example, vegetables or lentils, to make up their diet, and as a result, will end up purchasing less of rice, even though it's a very important good in their budget. And therefore, this negative income effect, because when the price goes down, real income goes up, can outweigh the substitution effect. Let's see this income and substitution effect through our indifference curve analysis and see also how the demand curve is upward sloping. So when we have two goods, good A and good B, and let's say good B is an inferior good, we will see that first thing that will happen when the price of a good goes down, the substitution effect will result in us to buy more of the good, because irrespective of the nature of the good, substitution effect will always result in the quantity demanded to go up and the price goes down. So let's start off by first making our initial budget line, and then let's say our new budget line after the price fall of good B, which is inferior, is the blue one. Now what we'll also draw will be another budget line parallel to our new budget line, but made in a manner that it is behind the new budget line, which means if this was your budget line and if I take away the income effect or the change in real income, I will move to this green line. Now the yellow and the green line, the only difference between them is this, that in the green line, good B has become relatively cheaper than good A, and that is why there is a change in slope. First thing what we'll do is that we will make an indifference curve that will be tangent to both these budget lines. So let's draw that. When we draw that indifference curve I naught, if I was at, for example, Q naught quantity, I will move to, let's say, Q dash quantity, simply because of my substitution effect. Now this means that when the price of good B becomes lower than price of good A or relatively cheaper than good A, there will be more of good B to be bought and less of good A to be bought. So we will substitute away from A towards B. But then we will realize that there is a rise in real income, and since this is a given good, we will say this, that in this case the substitution effect will be less than income effect, and the income effect, because a given good is an inferior good, when the price goes down and the real income goes up, you will see the quantity to actually go down, because this is a given good which is also inferior in nature. And the only difference between a typical inferior good and a given inferior good is that in a given good, the income effect is larger than substitution effect, which would mean that if this is my substitution effect, income effect is saying that when the price goes down, we will buy less of the good, so the quantity demanded should go down, but the quantity demanded will go down significantly more. So my new point that I'm going to choose, I will choose it, for example, at this point C, which is going to be before point A. So if this is my indifference curve I1, the quantity that I'm ending up with is going to be, for example, Q1. So when I move from Q naught to Q dash, that's substitution effect, and from Q dash I move back to Q1, that is my income effect. Now you can see this, guys, that the price of good B has gone down, but we do not buy more of it, but we are actually buying less of it, because although substitution effect resulted in us to buy more, because when the substitution effect happens, price goes down, the good becomes relatively cheaper, the quantity goes up. But income effect is saying buy less of the good, and since substitution effect is less than income effect, or income effect is more than substitution effect, our ultimate quantity is going down when the price goes up. If I plot this on a demand curve right below, where I plot price on my y-axis and the quantity of good B, let's say on the x-axis, we will see that I am moving from, for example, Q0 to Q1. And when the price was P0 or was higher, I was buying Q0, but when the price went down to P1, I was buying less. So if I plot these points together, I have a demand curve which is not a normal demand curve, it's an upward sloping demand curve, suggesting to us that this good is completely different. Now, this upward sloping demand curve actually raises a lot of concerns for many economists who believe there is not much of empirical data out there which can tell us whether Giffen goods really exist in real world or not. So while we have this theory to be explained here, there are a lot of disagreements among economists.